Welcome to the Fiscal Physical Podcast. Join us each week as we sit down with the founder of Alchemy Wealth Management and author of Your Fiscal Physical, Ryan Nelson. Tune in to gain valuable insights and practical tips as we simplify complex financial concepts into digestible lessons. From budgeting to retirement planning, this podcast is your go-to resource for mastering financial literacy.
Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode of the Fiscal Physical Podcast. My name is Aaron. I am joined, as always, by Ryan Nelson. Ryan, we are on our 65th episode. That's what this one is here. How do you feel about that?
It flies by. That's crazy. That's what I mean. That's a long time.
Yeah, it's a lot of episodes. Yeah, I mean,
that's like darn near. I mean, that's like more than 64 and almost 66 episodes.
It's right there. Yeah. So, but yeah, man, it's been a blast doing these. I've told this to you off air, and I've probably told it on air, but I really enjoy like learning these certain things. And even if by the time I get home, I'm always excited to tell my wife about what we recorded. And then she'll ask like a question about it, and I'm like, I don't remember.
Yeah, you'll have to wait.
You'll have to wait till the episode comes out to check it. But anyway, wanted to say thank you to that, and ask you, how are you doing today on this wonderful whatever day of the week it is?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. I'm ready to dive into this one here, and we've plugged before, and we will again about we love our listener questions. That's a big piece of something that we enjoy here at the Fiscal Physical Podcast. So today we have a listener question from one of our listeners sent it in to us here. It's actually a text question, so I'm excited to kind of read this one here. So I'll go ahead and read this here, and then we'll get your thoughts on it if that works for you, Ryan.
That sounds great. Let's do it.
Awesome. So I'm going to read this and imagine me in the voice of a listener here too. So I heard your podcast today, and it was awesome. Keep up the hard work, man. Want to ask a question? This could be a topic or your side question. Now, this text was to you, so keep up the good work, Ryan. Excellent job. Yeah. So this is the meat and potatoes of it. He said, so I've been scrolling through TikTok, and I know people use artificial intelligence, AI, to help with investing, and I just wanted your opinion on it. I know this is new, uncharted territory, and it just had me thinking because AI is such a new thing in today's era, and this individual works in the medical field, and he said, and for us in the medical field, it can be useful and a curse at the same time. What are your thoughts on it when it comes to investing?
Yeah, it's a great question. AI is cool. I think overall it's like a huge partner, right? We can leverage it to increase our efficiency. So overall, like I'm a huge proponent of AI and how it will help in the financial services industry. And really, I see it just helping me provide more and more value to my clients. So in general, I really am quite optimistic. A lot of, I think we're on like the like beginning steps or whatever you want to call it of AI. So I'm sure more of the tools will start coming out, right? But it is funny to see like, every single technology platform out there now has AI. Like yes, every single technology I use now is technically an AI product or platform.
Powered by AI.
Yeah. And it's like, well, the product doesn't seem to have changed much, but where are you using the AI? Like one cool example, for instance. So there's something called OCR. It's optical character recognition. That's like if you look at your iPhone and you take a picture of a sign, and then you can copy and paste words from the sign. Oh. Have you ever seen that on your iPhone?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So
yeah. Or if you take a picture of like, let's say you took a picture of your pay stub, and then you go in your iPhone and you search like pay stub, it'll probably pull your pay stub. Yeah. So like that's using OCR, optical character recognition, and so you can use similar things like in the industry, right? And so if you were to provide me your tax return, right, there'd be lots of information I would want to take out of that tax return, and then we could start making financial decisions with it, right? So there's a lot of sort of administrative steps that are required before we can actually get to the meat and potatoes and start providing you real value, right? And so AI, like there's technology out there now where I can take your tax return, upload it to this software that uses AI and OCR, optical character recognition, and it will just basically pull out all the relevant information from your tax return, more or less immediately for us, and we can get right into the meat and potatoes of providing you value. So now it doesn't take me an hour of time to review the document. I can basically indicate how I want the document interpreted and then use OCR to do it immediately, and then just get right into meat and potatoes. And so now we could spend, if it took me 1 hour to analyze the data and then 1 hour to work with you, now in theory, we could spend 5 minutes analyzing the data and an hour and 55 minutes providing the value, right? So that's just like one small example of how AI could be used in financial services, and already is being used in financial services with the technology I already have. But that's just like, I think, a small glimpse, and the technology just seems like it's going to get more and more efficient. But so much of running a business is like not even, I just think there'll be so many efficiencies even from like spam filters in your email inbox. Like if AI is filtering out spam versus not spam, that's going to be a better filter, right?
Yeah.
If like crafting emails, right? Like it's, if you wanted to write a nice email that sounds really good, it might take me 20 minutes to craft this really nice email. Instead, I could craft a AI prompt in 30 seconds, have it generate an email, spend 5 minutes editing that email, and now I've crafted a really nice email in 7 minutes instead of 20.
Right. Totally. Yeah.
And so I think there's just so many levels of efficiency from that standpoint that just like trickle through like the world in general. And obviously financial services will be a beneficiary of it. The medical field will be a beneficiary of it. Like there's just so many like just universal changes I think there'll be that will just address every industry. And then obviously some specific to finance. I will say, like the finance industry sort of lags behind. We, us in the medical industry both are just, it's two of the most regulated industries. Right. So we have a lot of personal information and, and so I can't just go use any sort of AI, right? Like I can't just go find this cool new tech and use it. I need to, it has to be robust enough where data is secure and stuff. And so specifically, like you were waiting until like financial services platforms are adopting the AI. So we're probably lagging a little bit behind we're maybe a little behind the 8 ball there, but also it's making sure everybody's data is safe and stuff, which is clearly important.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Hey, if you're behind the 8 ball for whatever 6 months, but make sure everybody's information's secure, that's probably a good trade-off, right? So yeah, I'd say a lot of that AI stuff maybe hasn't trickled quite into the financial service industry quite as much as I'm excited for it in the future, because it will get there.
Yeah.
But again, just being so regulated, it's just a slower, it trickles in slower.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good piece of it. To note about the financial industry, the medical industry, and these different areas where it potentially is more regulated, and I think even with my company, I work for a custom apparel company. We have like our own like internal AI platform that we use, and we're shutting it down recently. We just shut it down because it was not secure. And even just and so they're like, hey, we need to do some maintenance on it. We need to get it to where it needs to be. And I was like, okay, I don't really understand like the stuff behind it, but it was kind of like rolled out like that. It's like, hey, we need to get this more, because there is customer data and these certain things that we don't want out there, financial resources and such too. So it's really interesting to see. I think you really hit it on the head. We're just still at the beginning of what this is, and where it's going to take us, and what it looks like, 10 years from now, 5 years from now. I think it's going to be so different for that too. But kind of getting back to this individual's question here, do you use any programs, or can AI be useful for investing? I've never actually typed into like ChatGPT to be like, hey, what's the best way to invest my money? Kind of thing.
So I think a lot of people, when they think of AI, they think of like a ChatGPT type, and that's I think one use of AI is these like bot things. And I don't know, I'm a little more skeptical of that. And sort of my logic is, and this was true with Google, like you don't know what you don't know, right?
Right.
So similarly, like if we were talking about making Roth IRA contributions, which we talk about in a previous episode, and it's possible that you can earn too much to qualify to make a Roth contribution.
Right.
And so again, I run into people all the time who are high income earners contributing to their Roth. And I'm like, hey, you make too much to contribute to the Roth. And they're like, no, I never knew. Like I look it up online. It says if I can contribute this much money. It's like, well, yeah, if you don't know what to look up, right? When you don't know what you don't know, it's really hard to educate yourself on something you don't know because you don't know what to look up. Like, would you just one day start thinking, like, if you never had the slightest thought, would you just one day be like, oh yeah, I wonder if I earn too much to contribute to a Roth. Yeah. No, like you wouldn't ever think to Google that or like how much can I earn, and unless you've learned it from somebody else, if somebody else has told you or something. And so from a similar kind of vein, it seems like these like ChatGPT, for example, the responses you get, it's kind of like garbage in, garbage out, right? Yeah. The responses you get are more valuable based on how you prompt it, right? And so there's like in theory the new like, the cutting edge of these new tech careers is like prompt engineers, and it's becoming an expert in how to prompt these things. But if you don't know how to prompt it, then you may not get the best responses. And when you don't know what you don't know, you might not know what to prompt it with, right? And so if you're looking to do a Roth conversion or something, or a Roth contribution, and you're not giving it the correct information, it will probably give you, at this point, it seems like the answers are pretty accurate. So it'll probably give you a pretty accurate answer with the information it has, but it's relying on you to provide it all the relevant information. And if you don't know what you don't know and you don't know how to properly then prompt it, it's just going to be really challenging, right? So that'd be my biggest fear. Is I think it's still like, it's not just fabricating a response out of nowhere. It's fabricating a response based on your prompt. And if you're heading into that prompt with ignorance around something, that it's not going to solve that issue per se. But I'm still impressed with it. I mean, I think it's really cool. I'd be pretty hesitant though, just to like cut somebody loose and say, hey, just like take a topic you know nothing about. Right. Because you also don't know how to fact check it then. Sure. Like, there's all these like, quote, what do they call them? Mirages, or what do they call it when they come back with the false responses? Anyways, if I start looking up something, I'm like, hey, I have an infection on my arm. So I go to ChatGPT. Yeah. How do I heal this infection? And it tells me to mix a couple things together and put this ointment on my arm. Right. It's like, well, what if this infection is a different type of infection? What if I don't know like what I'm prompting? Yeah. Like, how do I even know these things combining together and putting it on my arm will be good? Like, I don't have the knowledge necessary to really verify the information it's providing me is good, which is just a kind of a dangerous world to start just totally relying. Yeah. I think it's at least at this stage, obviously it's going to continue to advance. And so as the years go on, our views on it will probably change, but at least at this stage, it seems like it's an awesome supplement. I would be hesitant to use it as a standalone, like investment advisor for example.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you can equate that to a lot of different things, with crafting emails. Like sometimes I'll get emails and I'm just like, all right, like you didn't write this. Like I know who that other person is who's sending that email, and I'm like, you did not write this. Like like, and it sounds great, sounds really eloquent in these certain things, and I'm like, awesome, like that. You use a lot of big words, and it's great, looks good, but that's not how you talk. And so like you get in the meeting with these people, and you're like, all right, what are we doing here? So I think that it's a great, like you said, a great substitute, a great addition to really elevate certain things. I think about it with a couple episodes back, we talked about spelling. And I think about like a lot of times like, I'm like trying to word something, I'm having a tough time, I'm like, oh my gosh, like how do I say this better? And like 90% of the time it's like, oh, that's way better than I would say it. Right. And I take it and then I just convert it to what I was trying to do. So it's like a supplement to what I like.
Yeah. It's a super cool, powerful tool.
It's a powerful tool, and it saves time, and you hit on the efficiency piece of it. And I think that's the biggest thing about like, man, something that maybe, I'm trying to Google a formula to plug into a Google Sheet versus I can just say, hey, this is what I want to do with Google Sheets. And then it will spit something out so quickly, and I can test it. And then like, hey, this didn't work, and it gave me this error. It's like, oh, okay. And it like you can do anything.
It's awesome.
It's so cool with that.
It's an incredible. Yeah. It's an incredible tool that I think needs to be leveraged for sure. You mentioned sometimes you'll receive these emails. You're like, I don't think this was really. Yeah. Did I ever tell you how? So my book came out like right around when ChatGPT first got launched. So I had people doing beta testing, right? Or beta reading.
Sure.
And so some of the people I knew well, some people I didn't know so well and stuff. And so I was asking for feedback on the book and where I could improve it and stuff like that. And so one of the responses I got back from somebody was something to the extent of like, this book will be like received excellently among inmates and can provide a lot of value or something. And I was like, that just doesn't make any sense. Like, it's not relevant to the topic.
I don't remember any inmates being
There's just nothing that alludes to that whatsoever. I was just like, I was like, I think that somebody just copied and pasted my book into ChatGPT and asked for feedback.
Yeah.
And then B, that, and this was like, this would have been like ChatGPT like 1.0 or whatever, when it was, it's continually getting better. But I was like, did this person also not like even read the response that came out of ChatGPT and like just proofread it? So it was pretty darn funny, but I was like, like that, it's just an example of a response where it's like that, it's not a standalone tool.
Yeah,
it's a great supplement, but just not quite ready to go standalone.
Yeah. That's hilarious. Just like, this will be well received among the inmates. You're like, really?
Yeah.
Like, is there an untapped market that I'm missing? With this here. So a lot of money behind bars, apparently. So awesome. Well, I appreciate it, Ryan. Appreciate you sharing the thoughts. Really, shout out to the listener who sent that over. Like that's great. Like it's something I probably wouldn't have had a topic on, like, to be honest. Like it's something that so just anything that you guys have, send us a text, shoot us an email at podcast@alchemywealth.com. We're happy to check that out. Please let us know. We love a good voice question if you want your voice on here as well, but text will work too. So awesome. We'll go ahead and pause for a quick break here, and we'll be right back.
And now, to put the personal in personal finance.
Welcome back to this side of the Fiscal Physical podcast. Ryan, today I got a question as far as communication goes. I value communication almost above anything just in life. I think that if somebody is a good communicator, they can really exceed in a lot of industries and a lot of areas of opportunity and just be a relatively well-rounded person. If you can communicate, it's a huge skill. So I'm curious what your preferred form of communication is. Like, is it text, phone, email, carrier pigeon? What do you think it is?
Sure. I mean, carrier pigeon sounds pretty cool. That'd be fun to explore.
Kind of would be.
What's is it an African swallow or what's the?
I don't know.
Okay, never mind. Somebody out there will get that. But professionally, I'd say like phone calls is, I think like if a client texts me or sends an email, oftentimes they're like asking a question or something. It's like, just the thought of like drafting this email is like overwhelming. It's like there's way too much context and nuance, and like it will take me 40 minutes to craft an email, whereas I could just call them, pick up the phone, and have a conversation.
Definitely.
So anything, I mean, clearly like phone calls are just a richer form of communication than texting or emailing. Sure. You can sense the intonation of somebody's voice and pick up on other cues. And so, I think like almost anything business related, I prefer phone calls because, again, I just can't. It's like, it's hard to communicate certain topics or certain ideas. And when you're having a conversation with somebody, it's like, you could start talking about something. They're like, yeah, okay, I get it. That totally makes sense. And then you don't have to keep going down that rabbit hole. And then you can move to the next thing and start talking about that. Whereas if you're crafting like an email or a text, it's like, how in depth do you go on each of them, right? So I think that back and forth conversation is incredibly valuable. So almost entirely my communication through work is done via the phone. But I don't know. Personally, I guess it's a little different. I don't. I guess I get most of. I'm obviously not having to communicate like as complex topics with my friends or whatever, and texting sort of this short, like almost stopgap thing until I like meet somebody in person. It almost feels like, and then I'm having that rich communication with them in person. But so like on the personal level, certainly texting is far and away my most popular way. I almost never call anybody, ever. But business almost entirely phone. So business phone, personal text, and email. I don't even.
You're like, all right,
it's for the birds.
Yeah, it's for the carrier
pigeons. Yeah. What about you?
I would say for myself, I'm similar. Like At work, I run a team of customer service agents. So we have about like 15 people on my team, and I have to deal with a lot of stuff that goes on with them. And we have this like big giant text conversation that happens and it's so convoluted with certain things that I'm just like, oh my gosh, like someone's like asked a question. I was like, hey, shoot me a message. Let's hop into a meeting. Let's get this done. Like kind of thing versus like going back and forth. So I'm still, and maybe I'm old school, whatever. I love a good phone call. Like I just think that or a video meeting, whatever it is, where you can hear someone's inflection, you can see somebody's it's really valuable, and I think it's important because you can lose things within like communication like that. I know that when my wife and I first started dating, she was just my girlfriend at the time. Like she just did not want to talk on the phone, just didn't like talking on the phone. But we were getting like our signals crossed a lot of times with like text messages, and she would think it meant and I was like, and so I was like, oh no, this is urgent. Like, how do I convey that this is urgent? Like, is it more exclamation marks? Like, I was like, all right, we just need to, until we actually know each other, we just need to talk on the phone.
Sure,
so like, I was like, if there's anything that's relatively important, I need you to call me about this. And so it was, now we can just text, and like, she reads it how I speak, and I read it how I speak. And I do the same thing when I read your text messages. I read it in your voice. And I think that that's awesome when you can kind of get to those certain times. So I would say personally, though, now, like with everybody that I've established with, I text all the time. Like that's what I use, and I think it's fun because I think you almost like read the person's voice or whatever, and you're like, it's hilarious. Like certain things. Or I'll use I've been getting into voice messages recently. Where I'll just send like a voice message, and I think that's cool too. Yeah. You can hear people talk and absolutely. See what's kind of going on. So I like communication, but I'd say I'm very similar. Phone if it's something really important. Yeah. Text if it's just personal and kind of just like whatever.
Yep. Agreed.
But awesome. Well, you got anything else for us here, Ryan, before we wrap up?
As always, stay the course.
Thank you for joining us for the Fiscal Physical Podcast. Until next time, happy listening. And as always, stay the course. If you have a question or topic suggestions, please email us at podcast@alchemywealth.com. If you enjoyed today's discussion, subscribe to the podcast to ensure you never miss an episode. And consider leaving us a rating and review on your favorite platform. This helps other listeners like you find the show. For more resources, you can visit Alchemy Wealth Management's website at www.alchemywealth.com or find your Fiscal Physical, the book, on Amazon. We'd be remiss if we didn't mention that personal finance is just that, personal. Please don't take anything we say as advice. The preceding content is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It's not an offer or a solicitation, nor should it be construed or relied upon for tax, legal, or investment advice. It doesn't consider your personal financial situation or objectives and may not be suitable for you.